Can you hear me, people?
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're welcome, Karina Smith, please.
Thank you. Now I'm going to try and not as pace as much as Elle because I do need to kind of see my little notes in the corner. But yes, the big thing for today was scale, which was interesting because Elle's going to, Elle talked to you about content and sometimes micro content, that word you see on the screen. It's been so well crafted, and I'm going to go off the Richter scale to the other end. And talk to you a bit about growing human-centred design capability at scale. Now, who in this room is an organisational psychologist? No one? Who's a change manager? No one? Okay. Who's a business coach? Okay, sort of. Okay, well that's interesting. Hold on to that thought, people. So yes, I'm from Meld Studios. I've been at Meld Studios for 4 years. It's a fabulous company, and over the last 9 years we've worked with 150 organisations, 32 government agencies, 15 industries. We've been busy. And what the great thing does about that is we get to kind of learn all these things from all these different parts of what's going on in the world, what's going on in these different places, banks, corporate, private, and we get to kind of mash it all up together, see the themes that are coming out of it, and actually share the love, because often people in corporate don't get to share the love. And mind you, we have confidentiality and all those sorts of things in place. We don't share those things, but particularly across government, we get to be able to kind of connect people together and bring those stories together and actually see what some of the common problems are. And that's really where my passion is. So I work less these days in the design of things, although I started there. I was in advertising. I sold you crap. That was my job. I also designed beautiful things that people didn't have a need for. Most of them were apps. They were crap as well. And that's where I started, and I got sick of that because she wasn't very human. For me, I was focusing on the thing and not so much about the experience of people. And this is back in the bad days of the internet. So I went and studied psychology, and because I thought, yes, I'm going to get back into the human world. Clinical psychology, just by the way, if anyone goes to do it, it's not very human. Ticking a lot of boxes, not a lot to do with the people. So I sort of walked away from that, a bit kind of disenfranchised. But then this world of service design popped up, and human-centred design was emerging. And I was like, oh my God, design, people, psychology, behaviour, this is fantastic. And I have been there ever since. But as you look into the world of humans, it's messy. And there is no messier place than the organisation. We've all been there, we're in there, and it is just like Game of Thrones every day. So when Queensland came to us and said, we want to embed human-centred design, or actually they said design thinking, at scale, how can you help us? And we were like, this sounds like a great challenge. I mean, how good to get an entire state working in a human-centred way. And what they meant at the time was that mainly about designers growing their skills in human-centred design across agencies. And what we were like, there's something in this, because actually what we're talking about is organisational transformation. Now, one of the things, who's had a project here that hasn't gone anywhere? Designed this beautiful thing, done the most human-centred process and designed this absolutely thing, and the organisation says, yeah, that's nice, thanks, move on to the next thing. I've done like too many fingers of these things. And what I was kind of noticing through these projects is when you walk away from it, it's like, oh, was that a waste of time? I've done all this great work. It's taken me 14 weeks, 6 months, whatever it is. Everybody loves it, but the organisation can't do anything with it. So my first question was starting to pop up is why? Why can't they take this forward? But the other thing I was seeing is that through doing the work we do, we transform the organisation. The organisation learns to be more human-centred. The organisation learns to be more collaborative, more holistic in the way that they're looking at how they do things. They work together better. And I was like, oh my God, there's a secondary benefit to the work we do. It's not just about the product. It's not just about the service. It's not just about the experience. We are designing we're transforming the organisation. So now put up your hands, who's a change manager? Everyone in the room, now put up your hand who's an org psych. Everyone in the room, now put up your hand who's a business coach. You all are. You all are. So this is what we did. It's a bit of a Trojan horse project. So what we did is we went into the organisation, who we are calling Queensland Government, and they had a series of false starts. They'd been trying to adopt human-centred design or design thinking for a while now. And one of the first things we went in there and we saw is that they'd had a lot of toolkits. IDEO, D-School, you know, these toolkits were lying everywhere and they weren't solving the problem for them. They had methods coming out their ears, but nothing was actually gelling. And so we're like, there's something in here about the fact that there's a lot of methodologies, but also their big focus was on the practitioner, developing the skills of practitioner. So the first thing we said is, instead of just designing another toolkit, because we're experts in design, we can create a toolkit, of course we can. We actually decided to take a human-centred design approach to creating a human-centred design approach. How meta is that? I think some people thought we were mental, and probably we were, but the first thing we naturally wanted to do is understand the context. Let's go into Queensland Government, let's go into all agencies and understand how is design already being applied? What's working and what's not working for those who are already using design, but also for those people who know nothing about it altogether. I'm talking senior executive, I'm talking those, you know, the Attorney General or whoever they are. Let's get an understanding of what the landscape is. Then we worked with a whole lot of the agencies to develop a whole lot of different methods and tools to actually kind of fit in with the context of the government. So let's look beyond what those practitioners need. Let's actually start to look in what the project managers need. Oh my God, procurement. Who puts the biggest brakes on any design project that's ever going to happen? Procurement. So we went and worked with them, put our armour on, and worked with them to sort of realign the design process with the existing processes in government. Then what we did is we generated a whole lot of prototypes and we sent them out into other agencies to test, and we also tested them live on 3 projects as well to actually iterate and understand how these things are working. How do we need people who are not designers to be design ready? What do they need to understand? Those senior executives, they need to understand even what it is, what the benefits of it. And actually kind of really build out a framework that was going to help everybody who works in Queensland Government create more human-centred outcomes. So it's not just about design practitioners. We were redesigning the fabric of the organisation. So some of the challenges that we saw when we went in and were doing our research, it was really interesting, and some of these are going to be so much that you guys were like, yes, I hear this all the time. I hope I see nodding heads. If not, I'm coming to work in your organisation, because that'll be great. Is that human-centred design or design practices can rub up against the organisation. They're at odds with the existing ways of working. You know, waterfall, no, not very human-centred. Just agile, also not very human-centred. We don't have time, we're on a train. God, if I hear agile train one more time this week, I'm going to throw up. You know, procurement, as I said that before, expert-led decision-making processes. You will do this thing that we tell you to do, but do that in a human-centred way. But you've told me to design this thing this big that looks red and actually only does that thing. Yes, but do that in a human-centred way. Well, so they're bringing design in at the end of the process. So all of these policies and processes, we need to understand what they are and how human-centred design could work with them. Lack of understanding and appreciation of design in middle and senior management. Now, if I don't see a nodding head in the room, and some of you work for gold organisations, but really they don't really understand what it is. They've been to a kind of a D-School thing or a thing like 6-day boot camp, throw your mobile in the office, let's all sit in beanbags and talk about design thinking. Great, come back. Everybody in the organisation needs to be a design thinker now, and go. Now, you're sitting there as the rest of you going, well, you actually don't really understand what that takes. You understand how we need design practitioners who are skilled to do what we do, and also we need to apply it things that are outside our traditional channels. Design has been great at being applied to digital for the term of our natural life, but what does it mean to apply design at a really messy strategic government problem? People don't necessarily have the skills and experience to do that. And they don't also have the support in the organisation. So if you sort of redesign, you know, the face of small business banking, you have to bring the head of small business banking on that journey with you. He has to understand what the process is. He has to understand, or she has to understand what their role in that is. And they don't at the moment. Inconsistency in approach. So how many design teams are in your organisation, or how many formulas or ways of designing things are carried out? I mean, 1, 2, 3, 7, it's messy. You got 1? Lucky you, Joe. What's it called? Is it called design thinking? Is it called customer experience, user experience, human-centered, blah, 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 blah. There was a lot of confusion about the way we talk about design. So what that did is created wars between teams. We're doing the right flavour of design, you're not actually doing this. Or we'll have our approach and you won't adopt our approach. We've got the innovation approach. It created a lot of tension and a lot of misunderstanding and wasted time. And the last thing is also lack of skills. So lack of skills and experience implying human-centred design, as I said, out of the digital touch points. So what we decided to focus on is we need to focus on mindsets over methods. There is enough out there around methods. We know we can look up 30 different things on the internet about how to run a good workshop, how to design a great paper prototype, how to go through an idea generation workshop. But what we needed to do is bring the others on the journey. So what I'm going to do is show you a video, because this will tell you better than I, from our actual customers, cross our fingers, how it felt for them to go through the journey.
The purpose of the capability building program was to try and bring as many people as possible along on the journey of putting customers first.
Human-centered design is a different way of thinking and it's a different way of operating. In government, it's very different in some areas.
Too often we've designed all of our services to what's easiest for us. So creating a human-centered design toolkit and bringing those mindsets to the forefront was critical in our customer first value.
One of the things that we focused on was understanding what some of the blockers and the challenges were for people in terms of executing a human-centered design process, understanding where specific government-related contexts that other toolkits or other methodologies that are out there might not necessarily help people to navigate. And these were key moments for us to develop with people practical ways to still be able to work with those processes in a way that enabled them to be true to a human-centered design approach.
It was really important that we get those tools out into projects teams for people of different roles to use them, to get a good understanding of what was working for them, what they needed more understanding on, and had regular forums for them to be able to provide feedback to us.
What we also did, we took the toolkit and piloted it live on a couple of different projects with people from government who had varying levels of exposure and experience with the design process.
But we were starting to learn what's missing from the toolkit. How do we explain things a little differently or easier for people so that they can understand exactly what we're doing?
And we were able to incorporate all of that feedback into the next iteration of the toolkit.
Growing capability isn't just about tools and methods. We also try a number of different things to be able to help grow capability at scale. This included virtual coaching, which had teams from all over Queensland call in to talk about topics related to human-centered design. We had an insights hub that centralised all of customer insights around how people engage with Queensland government into one place, so teams could use it as a starting point for their design.
For us, following a design process in the development of the toolkit was absolutely critical, and it has completely made it a more successful project because we were able to build such a depth of understanding of the different levels people were at throughout the organisation and what their needs were. We were in a position to create a toolkit that people could pick up and relate to and go, okay, I can do this. through this change process, the team itself has become this trusted wealth of information that can say confidently to our clients and any of the project managers that we're working with, have we really understood the problem? And how do we make sure that what we're designing is going to solve the problem that they were starting off with? It's also made a big difference in the level of collaboration that we see across government, and that's something that's really needed. We are using it to build capability throughout government, constantly sharing that document, very open and transparent. The more people that are using the toolkit, the better. Pretty much every single agency now have been exposed to it in one way or another, but it's a way of working within Queensland Government and one that we want to continually build upon.
So you can see what that was Gillian there, who works for DHS, did they say? Or no. Anyway, so she's moved on now to a different agency this week. But one of the things that Gillian said there was about people growing confidence in this human-centred design process. And most of the people you saw in those videos were actually non-designers. They're people that never had actually had anything to do with the design process again. And you would have seen a guy there standing up in front of a PowerPoint presentation, which a guy called Matt. 3 weeks into it, he was actually going back to stakeholders and saying, I don't think we've actually framed the problem well enough. I don't think this is the right problem to solve. So it was about everybody growing that confidence in actually being more human-centred. So one of the things I just want to show you is this was a project that we did as part of one of the pilots. So I said we piloted this framework with 3 different kind of core projects while we were up there. And this was actually the redesigning of a housing and homelessness centre in Queensland, in the middle of Brisbane. Now the team we went in to do this with, none of them were designers, none of them had actually had any access to any design process at all. And this was really important for us to get it to do this with one of those teams. And I'm going to show you in a video in a minute of their experience. And some things to not watch out for, because this is a bit of a test. Hear about how James, who's the guy who's going to speak, mainly thinks about how they would actually normally go about including people in a process like this. Watch out for that. Hear about some of the challenges that the centre itself, so we're talking about people who come in to, I've lost my house or have nowhere to live, drug and alcohol affected people, people who are in dire straits and really severe situations in their lives. They're often not the happiest people, and they're often not the most calm people. So there's security are big things around this. So we included the whole of the centre in this process, community services, police, everybody was involved in the design of this new centre. And as James said, I put my job on the line to actually go through a design process. He had facilities breathing down his neck. In 6 weeks' time, I need a floor plan. I need to know exactly how much space and what kind of furnitures go in there. You know, I need that on this date. And he said, I've heard about this opportunity to do this design thing. I'm going to do it. But he actually said to us when we went to record it, his job was on the line. He was going to walk away. And then think at the end about the change that actually happened. So this was very much a thing around looking at the non-practitioner and what the human-centred design process can actually do and what it can change. This was in a 6-week time frame.
Strategy that was released, and it was really looking to change the focus of the department so it was more personal, human-centred in terms of its service delivery. At the same time, we were advised that a company we leased a building off of one of our HSCs, they were pulling the option and we had to move within a 12-month period. So we decided to put the two things together and say, well, how do we create a new office? How do we encapsulate all the things we want in the new way we want to do service delivery?
Providing housing assistance to vulnerable people is a cross-agency approach. So rather than just focus on the housing centre itself, we look broader at the end-to-end housing service, the role of community services, the role of police and health in this process, to understand the role that the housing service centre was playing now, but also the opportunities for it to play in the future.
Going broad enabled them to actually feel and see what a customer was going through and blew the scope wide open on a project that could have been a very simple, you're going to design a new office environment.
One of the interesting parts of this process was the diversity of people that we had involved. We'd never really contemplated asking our staff what they want in an office space. Definitely wouldn't have asked our clients. Well, why would we ask them? They're not leasing the space, we are. And stakeholders, we wouldn't have considered them either. So this really is a complete turnaround for us in terms of what we would do.
When we created the future state concepts and ideas, we were able to go and then test them real life, real time in the centre with real customers and real staff. The day was incredible. We had lots of things happening when we set up some of the prototypes in the centre, so some things like free Wi-Fi, feedback box, kids play area. We had a water cooler, tried different processes for triaging people, and we had a staff member in front of house meeting and greeting the clients as they came through the door.
Right up until the opening, I was even worried about the safety concerns, because it is such a massive change. The environment is more relaxing, so people that come in, they don't feel that it's an us and them. They feel that we're walking them through the space to have a seat more relaxed in private areas. So there's not a barrier, and clients are really picking up on that. And we're having great conversations with people.
It's interesting to see, just from having conversations with customers and staff and also the NGOs or the caseworkers that are working with people, how broad the range of services are that are available to people through government and the Housing and Homelessness Centre. It wasn't just about social housing. There were so many other options available to help people that were a better match to what they need.
The process itself has changed the way we think and the way we're doing our work within HBW. What I want is for this to be replicated across Queensland, to actually understand how we should shape our policy, how we should shape our services, the hubs that we want to roll out across the state, being very clear that we want a co-design process. It's not about me and it's not about the money. The return on investment here is the service that we deliver our clients. It's how people feel and the difference we make to their lives. So if someone can come in here and feel comfortable, tell their story, and we can give them the right service the first time, the investment's being returned in the first day for me. I am absolutely overwhelmed with the feedback that we've been getting. People are feeling good about the environment that they work in out the back. They're feeling good about the foyer. They're seeing clients are happy. So really starting to change the culture of this housing service centre.
People love working here now. It's completely different.
When James said that thing, it's not about me, it's not the money, I was holding the video camera at that point and I had to drop it. I burst into tears because from what we saw before, which was a very toxic environment with a property guy saying, he's James, property guy, give me a floor plan. We took them through a human-centred design process, and it's a Trojan horse. The project, the topic of the project, the outcome of a floor plan isn't what mattered. It mattered that we changed the thinking about the way they could go about their work. We helped them be collaborative. We helped them think holistically. The fact that every single person that came into that housing service centre had to fill a social housing form and went into social housing queue is wrong, because there were 15 other options for those people, but those housing service centre staff didn't feel like they had the agency and they didn't have the means to actually put those people into the right chain. The fact that because that didn't happen, a letter went out to every homeless person 6 months later and said, do you still need social housing? Which homeless person gets a letter in the mail? And if you didn't tick the box to say yes, because you didn't get the letter, you're bumped off the queue. But did you know about it? No. Did the people in the centre know about it? No. So we designed a new triaging process and they all got involved in it. And they went from a place that we hate working here to a place that we love working here. People are queuing to get in the door of working at that place. And what they realised is the process, the design process, is far more important than the outcome. They know that in those 20 other centres across Queensland, it's probably going to be 95% the same. But the fact that people get to go through it together and that the strategic people behind it support that is the big change here. So we all have the opportunity to do this in our work. So, bit of things to end up, designing at scale. It's about enthusing not just design capability for practitioners, but you all need to start enthusing the mindsets in every single other person you meet in the work that you do. Pushing beyond the designers, because we only have a certain amount of power. There are many more people in the organisation who can do great things with the tools that we have. Designing with, not for, but at the same time, don't throw a toolkit at people and say, here, go and do it. It's an apprenticeship model. They need to work with you. You need to work with them to bring them on that journey. Aligning methodologies. So the fact that human-centred design is one method in the organisation, but if you go it alone and try and butt yourself up against the rest of the things that are happening, you won't make it. You need to work with those other systems in the organisation and become friends and understand and be empathetic. Take a research approach to the work that they do and work with them to get the best outcomes. And learning and adapting over time. Human-centred design models are not one thing, a way of working is not one thing. We are changing and we need to change with the organisation as well. And the last one I'm going to say is addressing the tails that wag the dog. We've got to take these kind of expert-led approaches or these solution-led approaches head on and ask the question, like that guy said, I don't think we're asking the right problem here. I don't think we're addressing the right issue. And first time that feels really hard. 20th time it gets a bit easier. 250th time, hopefully we don't have to say it again. And remember, all of your projects are Trojan horse projects to help reshape the organisation, to help have the organisation think in a more human-centred way, from top to bottom, sideways, all of it. You have an opportunity to share the love of the work that we do and the impact of the work that we do. So share those stories, create those videos, and go forth and be great change managers, business coaches, and I call myself a corporate therapist. That's my job. Thank you.
All the power's off. Go behind the screen.
I blew the power.
Oh. We'll just have to yell.
Yeah, we'll just yell. That's all right. I've got a loud voice most of the time. Yeah, so I think it's about what we can do in the time frame, and it wasn't always perfect, but it's about...
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'll get your card later.
Yeah, go for it. Anyone else want to scream?
You can hold the mic still. I have a question. So there was a lot of content.
Yeah.
So how do you keep people not overwhelmed but whelmed?
With this?
Because there were lots of images of lots of content on the wall and lots of elements, lots of things being produced.
Lots of things. Well, actually working out loud is a really big part of it as well. And for most of the project that we were in when we were doing the framework, we were in between the bathroom and the kitchen, which is absolutely the best place ever to be, because people walk by your stuff and they ask you what's going on, or they take a look in their break. So I would say everything was out loud and everything was being sketched, because we were being really rapid about that. The same thing at the Housing and Homelessness Centre. As we were going through the process, we had kind of rough maps on walls. We were intercepting people as they came in, and homeless people we want to know their opinion on things. So we were producing lots of stuff to be able to share, mainly. Joe? Yeah. Can I ask a question of you? Put it back on you. How do you feel about having the role of changing. Oh, here we are.
Thank you.
I won't yell anymore because that's just bad. How do you feel about? Oh, so psychologist in me. How does it make you feel? How does it make you feel as having the role of being an organisational designer, an organisational transformation person? Yeah? Yes!
No, it's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
And it's fatiguing.
Yep.
Because businesses they follow fashion. And, Joe's giving me a microphone.
Always dangerous.
Anyway, so that's the part that's exhausting, that you have sponsorship and support for a period of time.
Yeah.
And in that period of time, you get to do lots of great stuff. I'm amazed to hear that you didn't have executive sponsorship for what you did.
Not at the beginning.
That's an incredible achievement that's not to be underestimated.
Not all the way.
Exhaustion comes in when that hype cycle starts fading, and then the new flavour of the month comes in. And again, you were saying it was about aligning methodologies. I did a lot of that at where I last worked, which was key to say this is not antithetical to what you are doing. It fits in with what you're doing, and here is where it fits in.
And I think that's such an important point because it is exhausting. Like it really is. You're butting your head. You know, if I don't have a flat forehead, I've got one for a reason, is what I'm saying. But I think that, and what you say is also really important around not kind of alienating people with terminology and that we are designers. That's why I kind of don't call myself a designer much in organisations. I talk about risk. We're going to de-risk the things you're going to do because we test them. We actually collaboratively come up with them. So I'm talking business language to them. I'm not going in there with my hyper-human-centred methodology because they don't care. And what we want this to become is a way of working. We no longer want smart people locked in a room coming up with solutions that get out there, cost $800 million, and I have been on the edges of a project like that in government that is scary and still not out there. We don't want that to happen. We want them to take a design process, an iterative, collaborative, holistic approach to the way that they solve problems in their organisation. And we don't need to call it design. Please don't call it design. So good point, thank you. Anyone else? Hi.
I'm Yuxing, and I'm very intrigued by that human-centered design in scale. The scale that interests me because I'm from product design background, and I also have worked in an architecture studio. And then I actually find it very, because right now I'm going through courses about human-centered design. So like with my background, I always see this is like from the slides that you show about this narrative ways of thinking that you go through with the stickers and everything, it makes me feel excited. But I want to know like how this kind of method could be applied in product design or architecture.
It can be applied to everything. That's the great thing. Like I have kind of human-centered design of form for an entry for university. We work on huge infrastructure programs of work, which is what's public transport in Sydney going to look like in 14 years. And we're applying the same process to that. And that's the thing that we're trying to help them show in Queensland, is to get different case studies about how these things are being applied and being successful. So I would say, look at things that are happening in the built environment right now. They're starting to shift towards these more human-centered design processes where instead of smart engineer, and engineers are super smart, they work more multidisciplinary with a whole lot of people. No, they are, that's good. But we work with engineers. So no one is right, but everyone has and the opportunity to contribute. So look for it, it's there, it's happening. It's great.
It's very interesting because often like when you work with engineers, and I find it sometimes it's kind of annoying because like they have a completely different mindset. Like,
not a lot of humans in there.
They don't believe what you believe.
Yeah.
So it's
and look, I want my bridge to be having an engineer. I think if we just, as customers of bridge people who goes across a bridge, we would design a pretty bad bridge. It would fall down. I'm not a good engineer. So we need those people. We need the expertise of others. And that's what I mean. We've got to all come together, but we also need to listen to all the humans in the process. Yeah.
Yeah, they look at you the same way, I have to confess. having worked with engineers and kind of been an engineer in the past. Thank you, Karina.
Thank you, Joe.